Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We're going to have a great show for you today. What is the program about today? Title, Flippin' McCarthy's District. I want you to hear this again. Flippin' McCarthy's District. Yeah, the minority leader. We need to start looking into that. I want folks to remember a long time ago, for those of you who are too young to understand or remember, or you maybe have not been there was once the Speaker of the House called Speaker Foley. He didn't know what hit him. Everybody thought this Democrat was invincible. He came from a progressive area. He was invincible. And, he took his people for granted, some would say. And they made him pay. And he lost. And it was one of the biggest upsets in congressional history. I want to talk about El Señor McCarthy because after looking at some numbers, I think we should do exactly that. Anyhow, Psaki cleans Fox's clocks again. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some systemic racism with the homeowner and also that very horrendous thing that occurred 2 years ago that I think it's worse than what occurred to George Floyd. And then we're going to kind of give you that videos probably everybody's seen of when Ryan lost his school. But we have a whole lot to talk about today. But let's go ahead and get started with our friends here. Welcome aboard, Nanette Bird-Smith. Howdy. E2247 Fire Drill Fridays with Jane Fonda. Today was the most awesome visit yet. Got to check it out. Deborah John from LA. Boop, boop. Welcome aboard. Paul Fleming, ATL, checking in. You're on time, my brother. You're on time. Julie Van Astel. Hey, y'all. AVQ, also known as MR. Michael Rudnin. That's his customary thing here. January 6th was a warning. Prosecute insurrectionists and those who incited them or watch it repeat. Democracy, in my view, is an agreement that we will not kill each other over our differences, but instead we'll talk through those differences. And part of what's troubling is that I am beginning to see signs of the justification for violence, says James Davison Hunter, author, sociologist at the University of Virginia, noting the insurrection on January 6th when a mob of extremist supporters of Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol in an attempt to overthrow the results of the 2020 election. Culture wars always precede shooting wars. They don't necessarily lead to a shooting war, but you never have a shooting war without a culture war prior to it, because culture provides the justification for violence. That is not the best statement that I would have liked to hear today, but I'm pretty sure the learned professor, probably our author, knows exactly what he's talking about. But you know what? That's why we're here. We want to mitigate that occurrence or those occurrences. All right, second item from Michael Rudden. What would happen if you give homeless people $700 to $500? Let me just tell you, basic income, I did some interviews with some basic income experimenters, folks that are experimenting with basic income. And things work out a lot better than people think. People think that only freeloaders are going to want to take advantage of those things. That is not generally the case at all. Let's go ahead and let me check a few things here real quick. Wait a minute. Did we not get MailChimp didn't go out? What's going on here? I don't think we got our. Let's try this again. Let's see what goes here. Bear with me, guys. Looked like something in our Zap didn't run right, so people didn't get their mailers that said the show was on. That's not good. But anyhow, let's continue anyhow. All right, continuing. What would happen if you give homeless people $7,500? Most got out of homelessness while saving society money in the process. The people who received cash transfer moved into stable housing faster and saved enough money to maintain financial security over the year of follow up. They decreased spending on drugs, tobacco, and alcohol by 39% on average and increased spending on food, clothes, and rent. The evidence so far that getting a basic income trends to boost happiness, health, school attendance, and trust in social institutions while reducing crime. Recipients generally spend the money on necessities like food, clothes, and utility bills. What's more, according to Foundations for Social Change, you give out the cash transfers in the Vancouver area actually save the broader society money, enabling 50 people to move into housing faster, save shelter system $8,100 per person over the year, for a total savings of $405,000. That's more than the value of the cash transfers, which means the transfers paid for themselves. You know, it's interesting that they always add that corollary when they do something good, right? Hey, it actually costs less. I wish we didn't feel the necessity to do that, as opposed to just saying it is the right thing to do, even if it costs more. It's the right thing to do. I wish more often than not we would start saying things like that. It cost more, but it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do. Anyhow, let's see. I want to make sure that those things didn't go out because I am sort of upset that we didn't get our people told. Actually, it looks like it went out. It did go out. I don't know why it didn't post it. It did go out. All right. Let's continue here. Let's see what else we got here. Yvette Avery Howard, welcome aboard, my dear friend. Afternoon, PDR Posse, Michael Rodnin. Egberto, when I talk about homelessness, I always lead with it's the moral thing to do and follow up saying it's cheaper to help the poor than leave them homeless. Exactly. Thank you very much for making that addition there, Michael Rodnin, because we have to stop thinking about, let me give another example here. And this one always pisses me off. And I understand why Biden does it because we are pre-programmed by the plutocracy into believing that everything is about jobs, everything is about the economy, etc., etc. Chris Swidwells, welcome aboard. Hi there. And we have to learn better than that. We have to learn morality. Here's the deal. Biden said, every time I think about climate change, I think jobs, jobs, jobs. Every time you think about climate change, you should think about the right thing to do, human survival, the right thing to do, ecological survival, the right thing to do. Jobs is, I always make the comment that says we need to stop thinking business first and fit in humanity around business. Right now, the center of our being in America and the Westernville is business. And then we fit people's well-being. We fit people's personal economy. We fit everything else around business. It's the other way around. We think humanity first, and how do we create an economic structure around what we want humanity to look like, right? But you have to remember this. From the foundation of this country and before, the first thing was how to keep those that are enriched, and not about what is right towards those who actually produce, those who actually make things happen. It is so important. Hi, Coop 333. Welcome aboard, brother. It is so important that we do that, right? So I want everybody, the next time you hear Biden says, anytime I think about climate change, every time I think about doing the right thing for climate change, I think jobs, jobs, jobs. Say no, 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 no. Think humanity, humanity, humanity. And with having humanity survive, jobs will come. Because we will do what we need to do so that we have an infrastructure for us all. We have to change. We have to change. And according to Bruce says it's hard to sell humanism a competitive faith. What I think, Bruce, is, first of all, I'm not disputing that. I am saying for those of us who understand it, and for those who we know will, most of us will, we have to change the narrative. We have to change the paradigm. And if we do that, as opposed to just acquiescing to the plutocratic narrative, if we stop acquiescing to it, if we force, as forceful as those people who believe in the Powell memo. And notice, Bruce, I'm trying to be consistent now. Instead of using the Powell manifesto, most people think Powell memo, as you indicated when you edited the book. Powell memo, Powell memo, Powell memo. Most people who understand what the Powell memo is all about, right? We can do the same to let folks know, hey, this is the way things are supposed to be. So welcome aboard, Don Broadbent. Welcome to the show. Julie Van Assel, I think I welcome you. Lynn Wood Jr., bienvenido. BD Pollard, which is Bruce Pollard, and High Coop 333. I'm glad that you're here live. And Chris Swindells, welcome aboard as well. All right, let's go ahead and get busy with some videos. Like I said, I want to start with Jen Psaki. I want to tell you guys something. I've been a bit upset with Jen, not because of how good first of all, Norman Reynolds, welcome aboard, brother. Jen Psaki is damn good. But she's too good when it comes to covering up for other things that Biden needs to do better. For that, I hit her. But I shouldn't say hit her. Come on, Egberto, don't talk like that. For that, I challenge her. I challenge her for that. But, damn, she's good. I'm going to play two things. Let's go ahead and show what she did to Ducey today and what she did to Ducey a couple days ago. Check this out. Oh my God, Peter Ducey will never learn. He did it again today. But this time he gave Jen Psaki a twofer. And she took it and she ran with it. I want you guys to listen to this. Let's then take it on the other side.
Okay, go ahead.
Just heard you describe the infrastructure negotiations as the art of seeking common ground. At some point, does that become the art of the deal?
I don't know. You're the professional here, Peter. You're the TV star, you know? What's the Fox Chiron going to be?
Art of seeking common ground does take a lot of characters.
It does.
I'll check
does.
the control room.
The art of the deal. We'd be okay with that. Yeah.
With the art of the deal, I think that's a headline.
Well, there you go. An art of a different kind of deal. A deal for the working people.
Got it.
Okay, go ahead.
So
Glad we could work that out.
Thank you very much. Quickly on immigration, the governor of Tennessee says that he was asked and he declined a Biden administration request to house unaccompanied minors. And in coming days, or in recent days, there have been some reports that at least 4 planes filled with unaccompanied minors landed in his state, some in the middle of the night. Can you explain what's going on there?
Well, as we have been very clear about, children, our objective is to unite these unaccompanied children under the age of 18, with families, with sponsor families. So children have been traveling through Tennessee. They are simply on their way to unite with relatives and sponsors, to meet sponsors in the state, or just traveling through Tennessee until they reach another destination to unite with family members or legal sponsors. As you know, geographically, it's right in a place where there's a lot of states around it, so it's a place where some flights have gone through as children are moving to other destinations.
And since this was something that the governor of the state said he didn't want, this is not a case of federal officials trying to sneak something past the state level officials?
I think I'm confirming here that Tennessee is a state that is right near in the middle of the country, and some kids have to travel through there to get through their destination, and we've been very clear that our objective is to treat these kids humanely, get them to safe homes, especially homes of loved ones and sponsored families.
Was that cool or what? I mean, she taught him a lesson in geography, and she also taught him about, hey, maybe writing a Fox News Karen. Hey, Ducey, what is the Fox News Karen gonna be? Is it gonna be the art of the deal? Nah, it's not gonna be the art of the deal. It's gonna be the art of the deal, but we're gonna add a little something else. The art of the deal that protects the middle class. The art of the deal that helps the middle class, the art of the deal that fights for the middle class. Ducey, why do you give her such an opportunity that more than likely you can't even play it on Fox News? Because you know what? It makes you look silly, and it also makes Fox News exactly what they are. Fake news, maybe? Yeah, I think it's fake news. Hey, going back to the subject about not using jobs, going straight to what is humanity. According to Bruce, changes at that level takes generations. 6, we don't have the RE. I don't know what RE means, but here's the deal. You're right that it takes generations to change for exactly all changes to metastasize. But let me tell you what it takes, and this is from Making Change 101 or Starting a Revolt 101. 3%. If 3% of the population engages modus operandi, take a look at how revolutions start. And we're not talking about necessarily shooting revolution. We're talking about big changes. If you can get 3% of your people to be on a particular wavelength, that 3% is going to be enough to get over to the next wave, the next form of thinking. And that is what progressives need to think about. You know, that's one thing the right has always known. The policies of the right are no good. They know it. But they've convinced enough people to make one believe that they have some sort of critical mass. They don't. But we now, which we have the people on our side, we just need to get the active people on our side active. And that is by doing what we're doing here, what we do in other places, where we're actually starting to engage. I always like to use 20, a lot of people look at 2020 and they said, yeah, but look at what happened in Congress. We lost seats in Congress, even though we kept it, even though we cleaned Trump's clock, all of that, everybody was into that. And I keep warning everybody that Trump's loss because of the undemocratic nature of the United States of America, Trump's loss to Hillary Clinton, Trump's loss to Biden was closer than Hillary Clinton's loss to Trump. Hillary Clinton lost to Trump by the Electoral College by 80,000 votes. Biden's win over Trump by Electoral College was about 40,000 votes. We have a flip of 40,000 votes in 3 states. Even though Trump would have lost by over 7 million people, he would have been president. That is the undemocratic nature of the United States of America. We can't preach democracy to anybody because we have been lucky for decades that this stuff doesn't happen more often. But the way it is set up right now, it is structured perfectly for us to win by 10 million votes and still lose an election. That is why we have to be so good. Now, if you realize what has happened over the last several, right, you will see that we have to engage. Those progressives that engage in 2020, they're the ones who brought it home. Because remember, Trump got more votes in losing than Hillary Clinton got in winning the popular vote. We just brought a hell of a lot more people out and getting to 81 million people. People have to understand the numbers. So Bruce is right when he says it takes generations to make certain kinds of changes, but it takes 3% to start the avalanche. And that is where we've got to be. That is where we have got to be. Let me, before I read any more stuff from other folk, let Dawn Broadbent, welcome aboard. Let's see who else is here. The Duck That Quacks. The Duck That Quacks. Welcome aboard, brother. Love to see you here. All right, this is the other one from Psaki that I really wanted to show. Jen Psaki is at it again, this time using a question from Peter Ducey, that Fox News reporter that always tries to somehow make a fool out of her, and always it turns out the other way. Well, what she did today, though, wasn't, she used his question to make a fool out of Trump. Let's take a listen to it, then let's take it on the other side.
The president says that foreign policy is something he's done his entire life. Is it working?
I would say that if you look at the fact that the global community believes that America is back, has a seat at the table, that we're going to continue to lead in the efforts to get the climate crisis under control, to lead in the efforts in engagement around the world, certainly bringing about an end to this conflict, but also moving toward diplomacy in as it relates to North Korea, and moving toward a place where the United States returns to the place of being a leader in global forum, as we hope to be at NATO. I would say we're certainly working on changing the tide of the last 4 years.
We're changing the tide from the last 4 years. And you notice she enumerated all the things that Donald Trump didn't do in foreign policy that he was responsible for doing. So Peter Ducey wants to show up. Good old Senor Biden. But instead, what he did is gave her the platform to say, this is how badly Donald Trump screwed up our foreign policy. So thank you, Fox News. I hope you put this on Fox News. Of course they're not going to put that on Fox News. Of course not. What happens if we eliminate the Electoral College? We can't. Right? It's constitutional. There's something called the Electoral College Compact, or I think it's called the Electoral College Compact or something like that, where what they say is, since the Constitution doesn't tell you how the Electoral College must vote, if we get enough states to sign the compact, their compact would say, whoever wins the popular vote, all our Electoral College will go towards the person who wins the popular vote. And that would solve the problem constitutionally. That would solve the problem in a manner that doesn't require a constitutional amendment, which in these days is almost impossible to get, since you need 2/3 or 3/5. I don't remember. I think it's 2/3 of the people to do anything. So that's what we're talking about here. Now, what I would love for, I was a board member of Move to Amend, and what we were talking about then was amending the Constitution, creating the 28th Amendment, which took money out of politics and made sure that money was not speech and corporations were not people. And we thought that doing a whole lot of that would open the door for us to make those constitutional changes. We were kind of tepid about creating a constitutional convention, because at that point the entire Constitution is open. I'm at the point right now where I'm saying open the whole damn Constitution. The document itself is a property document. We could change it into a humane document if we opened it up. So, people have different thought processes there. All right, before I move on, since we are at 27, let me go ahead and do my ask earlier than normal, since I've been doing it later than normal, and actually most of the times forgetting. I've sent Bridge MCP telling me, and we haven't seen Bridge MCP here today. Welcome aboard, Roberto Luis, mi hermano de Panama. Welcome aboard. Let's see now. Okay, here we go. Please, if you are listening to us on YouTube, please go ahead and click that join button. Become a member. If you become a member right now, I'll get a little green square. I'll throw that green square up on the screen so people can say, yes, look who just became a new member. If you don't see a join member, or if you are calling from a platform like Facebook Live or Twitch or any other platform, please go to politicsandright.com/YouTube, politicsandright.com/YouTube alternatively. And by the way, we also have a mug created by one of our PDR Posse leaders, Bridge MCP, designed our mug. And let me find the mug here. Here are some pictures of those wonderful people who purchased our mug. Where can you get our mugs? You can get our mugs right at the store. Here is the direct link to that particular PDR Posse mug. Folks, you can also support us via Patreon, politicsandright.com/Patreon, politicsandright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon, Patreon. Of course, you can support us as well via PayPal. PayPal is, well, everybody knows how to spell PayPal, Paypal, politicsandright.com/PayPal. And if you want to buy our books, we've aggregated all our books, and I'm going to put that on the screen right now. All our books at politicsandright.com/books, politicsandright.com/books. You can get all our books if you click on that link, you'll go directly to Amazon, where we have all our books listed, both the books, the audiobooks, all that good stuff. There in the house right now with us is Norman Reynolds. Norman Reynolds is the voice on It's Worth It, how to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. And we have for the other book, How to Create Utopia, edited by another person in the room, Bruce Pollard. So we are a team in here, and I thank all of those who volunteer to really help us get the message out and help us in doing all the things needed to get done. So that is politicsandright.com/books. You can also visit our store to get t-shirts and all the other things that you may want to help support the mission, politicsandright.com/store. Again, that is politicsandright.com/store. All right, let's get busy. The next subject is, this one hurt to the core. And I want to, after I play the video, I'm going to read the blog that I wrote for the video. Well, the parts of the blog that's not written already for the video. But here is the story about this woman. This story should make everyone's blood boil. You know, we talk about systemic racism, and a lot of people like to say, oh, that's not true. That's in your mind. Oh, it's not true. That there are reasons why. Please tell me, watch this. What could possibly be the reason that we get this type of discrepancy in the home ownership market? Check this out.
After her grandmother's death, Carlette Duffy set out to buy the family home by refinancing her own house. But after receiving 2 appraisals well below what she thought her home was worth, Duffy worried something might be amiss, especially after the second appraisal.
It's $110,000, $15,000 less than the first one, which is less than 3 months earlier.
So Duffy tried again. This time, she didn't disclose her race or gender, only spoke with the appraiser via email, and
I took all of these down so that they wouldn't be seen.
And on the day of the appraisal, she found a stand-in.
I met with 2 of my girlfriends. Both are married to white men, and I was like, okay, I need to borrow one of y'all husbands.
A bit skeptical at first until we saw the results.
Duffy's home was valued at $259,000, more than double that of her previous 2 appraisals.
I screamed with joy. I was so elated. And then it quickly dissipated. And then I just cried.
Duffy's experience isn't isolated.
Homes in Black neighborhoods, equivalent to their white counterparts in similar social circumstances now, are underpriced by 23%, about $48,000 per home, and that adds up to $156 billion in lost equity.
This month, Duffy filed a complaint with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, alleging discrimination in both her appraisal and lending process.
You are taking away my family's ability to create generational wealth.
In statements to NBC News, Citywide Home Loans denied any discrimination and said they are actively participating in the HUD investigation. Freedom Mortgage said they used an automated valuation model after receiving the complaint and stood by the appraised value. None of the appraisers named in the complaint responded to NBC's request for comment. As for Duffy, she used the money from the final appraisal to fulfill that dream.
That's the house that my grandfather built. I hope to see my grandbaby raised in that house.
Now, Seth, experts tell me that black homeowners should assume that they are being discriminated against in this process and look at those appraisal forms very carefully. Now, if homeowners feel like their home has been undervalued, they can challenge that appraisal through the lender. And if necessary, reach out to their fair housing organization locally or an attorney to discuss next steps.
That is so important. That is so important. But again, the repercussions of having your home where you have built up most of your assets, most of your wealth, that has generational impact. That is, if you start, that is like starting from, instead of starting from a home plate or first base, you're starting right back in the dungeon having to get up to the plant. It is something that we have not only in home ownership. We also see this in the interest rates being charged for the same credit score for somebody purchasing a car or something of large values. This is the definition of systemic racism. These types of issues occur in every part of our financial being, in every part of many of our being. And when we can understand that fair people are fair-minded, when you can understand that these things occur over and over again in every aspect of your life, you can see the degenerative effect it has not only on one's psyche, not only on one's being, but also on one's actual personal economy. And that goes down through generations. Absolutely so. So anyhow, when I felt compelled to write a few things other than what you see in most of the articles out there, right? Because they tell the story and then they say, yeah, you can report. So I wrote the following and have it on the screen right now. One can fight outward racism overtly. If somebody calls me the N-word, I can see it. If somebody says, I don't want to be with you because of how you look, I can see it. If somebody just says, if somebody beats you up because of who you are, you can see it. One can fight outward racism overtly. After all, it is easy to see when one uses an epithet or affects a violent act based on ethnicity, it is easily seen. Systemic racism is very different and much harder to eradicate. So, people used to like to tell me things like, why do you love the South? First of all, the people in the South generally, you can't speak completely in absolutes, but the people in the South, there's a culture of niceness, right? But there's also there's a certain degree of honesty, and if I don't like you, I don't like you. If I'm a racist, I'm a racist. It's not the same as up north where I think all Americans are the same all over the damn country, right? I piss off a lot of my brothers and sisters up north when they say, no, but we're not from the South now. The truth of the matter is, anyway, let me finish what I wrote here. I say, you buy a car, your interest rate is higher than your white brother or sister with a similar income and credit score. You apply for a job, but the manager's implicit bias devalues the attribute that matter. Your daughter is discouraged from joining advanced placement programs and attempt to dissuade you from purchasing a home in a particular area. You make a business deal online, and when it is time to sign the contract and you meet in person, there's a change in heart. And the other party backs out of the deal on pretenses. You go to a bank for a loan, and you are immediately discouraged from even filling out an application. I could go on and on and on and on. Every single one of those statements have been my realities, Egberto Willies' reality. And I still smile. And I still look for the best in folk. And I still know that there's a better way. And I still know that we can make a change. And that is just a small subset of all in the years that I've been in the United States of America that I've seen, not that somebody have told me, that I've lived through. And in doing so, knowing that there's nothing special about me. Norman Reynolds has been through it. I am sure Lawrence Sims have been through it. I'm sure, let me see, which other person in my room here that I know is black or Latino. Miss Lopez knows it. And lived it. And lived it. Systemic racism is built in as a culture. It is only eradicated when confronted head on. That is why the cops get away with it every single time. Because if they do it and they don't pay a penalty, they do it and they become nothing but a reflection of society, or the reflection of society of people saying, man, I wish I could do that to those people. But Roberto Lewis lived it in the military. People ask, well, why do they all the time get these cops off? A friend of mine told me the answer. White buddy of mine told me the answer. And it wasn't the guy that I had, that great guy on that I interviewed yesterday. Listen to that interview again. He's a very smart white guy as far as how to help get this stuff fixed. But anyhow, he said, this other guy told me, he said, you know why these guys get off? Because a lot of times they see the cop do what they wish they could do to people like the cops doing it too, that they believe are deserving of some sort of an act of that nature. He said, remember that, Egberto. A lot of people think these cops have the authority to do what they know they cannot do but would want to do. And that is why those cops always, or for the most part, get off. But in watching what Chauvin did to George Floyd, they looked at Chauvin look into that camera, and they had to see themselves. And they just couldn't see themselves as the absolute killer, the murderer, the assassinator that was Chauvin. They just couldn't stomach going down that deeply. That's what it's all about. And I'm not saying, we have sometime look up my 33 rule. It's an important rule that I've talked about in the country. All right, let's go ahead when we talk about the cops, right? If you take a look at how can another human being treat another human being this way? Too many people continue to make excuses for police as if the police are mostly benevolent. I have come to the conclusion that there is nothing benevolent about the police system in the aggregate. Yes, there are good police officers, but what we like to say is there are mostly good police officers and a few bad apples. A few bad apples cannot exist in a system that does not tolerate them. This is more common than you think. What we have here with Ronald Greene, it's to some extent, it's even worse than the 9 minutes that we saw with George Floyd. I want you to just take a look a little bit, just a little bit, because I can't take much of how our officers actually work. Take a look at this, because this is what a lot of people see. This is what they see most of the times from their police officers. The guy is on the ground. He is on the ground. He's incapacitated. He's kicked by the officer. Does a human being, and shouting at him, I'm not playing the sound, does a human being behave that way? Then he picks him up and drags him like an animal with his face down and his hands behind his back. Look, folks, this is very common. More common than most people are willing to accept. We have a cancer. When people talk about defund the police, they're talking about defunding these acts and putting sensible cops out. We need to purge our entire police system at this point. Because when I see a cop, and I'm a professional person, educated person, somebody who doesn't break the laws, but is always fearful if I see someone in blue next to me. That shouldn't be the case. That should not be the case. This is more status quo. This is more prevalent than folks are willing to admit. The fact of the matter is only the ones that make the news people know about, but the one that people see every day, day after day, day after day, that's never reported. You feel the indignity and you just go ahead and it's easier to just move on. You feel the indignity today. You say, well, you know what? It's 10 minutes of indignity. Let me go off and just take it and move on. No one deserves to live under that type of stress for a system we are all paying for. I don't want to pay my taxes to pay cops to mistreat me or to put my life at risk. I pay them. You pay them. We deserve their security, not their wrath and their murderous beings. Absolutely not. That is what we ought to demand. Okay, so there goes the racial portion of my program. I had to bring that in because these were two issues that showed up, and I think interspaced. I needed to show these because I needed to kind of give a real-time example of what systemic racism looked like and what police brutality based on race looks like. Because I think good people, when framed right, all see the same thing. All see the same thing. Okay, let's go ahead. Before I go any further, I love this. Daniel Ledos, you are dealing with people who are completely ignorant of history. I know. We are so ignorant of history. We don't know how this country got formed. We don't understand how the Constitution was written. There is something magical within the 3/5 Amendment that you just don't see. You just can't understand that counting a body as 3/5 of a person for the sake of how many electors you get, but not be that same 3/5 of a person doesn't get 3/5 of a vote. We should get a whole vote, right? I mean, it boggles the mind that some people just don't come out and say the 3/5 compromise was simply wrong. Somebody should have fought for humanity. Period. Punto y final. And if you couldn't get a country formed, if you could not get a country formed by acknowledging that everyone is a human being, then you should have broken into two countries. You should have gotten the independence for one and the independence for the other. And then the other one does what it needs to do. It's hilarious that you try to make it. And for those who don't understand that the Constitution is a property document, we're just a few. And in fact, many of you that are defending it right now in my room, they cared nothing about you. You were just trash to them. They didn't quite say trash in the Constitution, though. But I suggest that you read the Federalist Papers. Go read the Federalist Paper. By the way, I have. Learn about the foundation of this country. And disregard all those people that are coming against the 1619 Project as if, oh, the 1619 Project is so bad, it's not. The 1619 Project did exactly right. It centralized slavery as America. And it has to. And this is not putting anything negative on my white brothers and sisters because you know what? Y'all didn't have anything to do. Most of you didn't have anything to do. Most of your forefathers didn't have anything to do. You were privileged that you weren't, but most of your forefathers didn't have anything to do with it either. It was the capitalism sect of the creators of this country who threw you all away, but gave you the semblance of just not being black. And as such, you could hang yourself on that and say, hey, at least I'm not black, so I have some privileges here in this country. But they screwed us all. We all got screwed, and we continue to get screwed. our government system, our economic system continues to screw us all. And you know, in the past, they could just screw a group of people. We could go screw the indigenous people. We could go screw the black folk. We could go screw the Latino folks and all of that, because as long as we had more people to screw, you know, we could give others the semblance of prosperity. Read Richard Wolff as far as how they took your semblance of prosperity away. And they could do that. They could do that. But this economic system needs to be fed. It needs to be fed. And when they ran out of all these other people to steal from, when they ran out of all these other people to take advantage of, you know who was left? My poor white brothers and sisters. You notice you don't see Appalachia on TV often. You don't see what's going on in West Virginia, what's going on in the western parts of Ohio. You don't see those places where are mostly white, but the people in the black areas in Houston look like they're living well compared to a lot of those people to my white brothers and sisters in Appalachia. You don't see it on TV though. You see, because our system knows about narrative, right? If the masses start seeing white people living downtrodden, living like they're used to only seeing black folks in the ghetto or Latinos in the barrios, they'll say, oh my God, that can happen to me too? And all of us, the reality that I'm trying to create, uniting the barrios, the ghettos, and Appalachia, that could really become a reality where we then screw the plutocracy and then create that system that supports us all, right? So on TV, you don't see what it looks like. There are a hell of a lot more poor white people and more white people living really under the gun than most, but you don't see it. And they don't play it up. And the reason they don't play it up is they can't give you. They can't make my white brothers and sisters, the mass of my white brothers and sisters, believe that what's happening to those other folks could happen to them. Well, you know what? It is already happening. It is already happening. But they're not given a whole lot of notions. They're not. So all I tell you folks is share my stuff. Please share the video, share all those things, because that is how we're going to make change. I have two more videos, but what I'm going to do is do the leader McConnell, because let's do the McConnell video and then we'll move on from there. You know what? A report proves that we need to get our act together. You know, Kevin McCarthy is thinks he's going to win the House. He doesn't want to pass any of the bills that the Democrats want out there, bills that help people, bills that a supermajority of people say that they want, you know, both socially and for the infrastructure and many other issues, right? And if you look into his district, as this study shows, the people in his districts will want this as well. Listen to this and then we'll take it on the other side.
Got to share the details of a new report that reveals one of the biggest benefactors of the American Rescue Plan happens to be one of the most vocal critics of Biden's infrastructure plan, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Erica, this piece was amazing. Kevin McCarthy vehemently opposes Biden's proposal. Tell us more about his district and what do they need? What do they use?
Well, his district, which is at the bottom tip of California's Central Valley, very agriculture heavy, has a lot of poverty, large family sizes relatively, younger families, and they really need that child tax credit. We found that they are among the highest need districts in the state and in the country for that particular benefit. Some 93% of children would qualify for it, compared to around 86% nationwide. Lots of folks getting stimulus checks, unemployment still in double digits in that district, even as it's fallen to single digits in the rest of California and the nation. So a lot of need for those enhanced unemployment benefits, and just lots of needs that federal legislation has addressed, but that Mr. McCarthy opposed in the most recent round of legislation.
Then what is he doing in office? He has been reelected since 2007.
That's right. And I think your previous segment went to that a bit, which is that although McCarthy is someone who in the California state legislature had a record of pragmatism and some would say moderation, he's now, towing the party line and sticking with President Trump, and that is where he has to be as a national leader. His district remains strongly Republican. There's a lot of voter disengagement among those poorer folks. There's a large number of undocumented who are not able to vote, and the congressman continues to have a base of support. In some cases, folks that are benefiting from the programs that he opposes, but nonetheless maybe don't connect the dots or continue to support him nonetheless.
And Democrats have some work to do in that district. Do you think he'll be safe in the next cycle? You can only be a leader on the national stage if you get elected in your home district.
Yeah, I don't think he's at risk. And clearly he's trying to make sure that he's not. And that's in part by supporting President Trump, which is where Republicans have to be for the most part for electoral viability.
You heard what she said. A lot of disengaged, and she still believes it's a Republican district that is going to be taken because it's a Republican district. True. Remember somebody named Mr. Foley, who led the House, Democrat, and he thought he had that district all sewn up? I fundamentally believe that if we put the effort in, and this doesn't have to distract us from winning our shore district and put it in involving ourselves in there. But if we go into these areas and instruct and bring those new people into the fold, those people that are disengaged, invest in them. Invest in people. That's who we are as progressives. We could probably create the biggest upset of 2022. I think Kevin McCarthy, given this report, I think his district must be placed in play. Whether it seems that way or not, the fact that these people do require government and that he is materially opposed to it, there is a narrative that can be created. That these people finally look at their self-interest and say, if Kevin McCarthy gets his way, we don't. Democrats need to engage on this one. And that is what I already, after I saw that report, I went to one of my Democratic leaders in the state, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? I don't see why this district isn't in play. It's a R+12. It's a R+12 district. What that means, it's a 12-point skew between, it's 44 Democrats, 52 Republicans, something like that, right? Or 56 Republican, 42, 56, whatever it turns out to be. Here's the deal. We need to make sure that the grassroots go to 23. That's his district in California. And we need to get rid of him. Because we need to, and that is one thing that pains me with the Democratic Party too often, right? We just assume, those people don't vote. You know what we did in 2020? We brought out those people that didn't vote. And you know how we did it? Because I'm telling you how we did it in Harris County. Harris County, Texas, which is a bellwether county. We reached a whole lot of people that said, we don't vote. I don't vote. It doesn't make a difference. And we said, please vote this time. This time it's going to be a difference. Please, we implore you, please vote this time. We need your vote, and I promise we won't leave you. We were all over the county doing that, and we brought out more people than we thought existed. We just kept bringing people out. The same happened throughout the country. That is why we went from 66 million people to 81 million people. And there are more millions for us to get. And there are also more millions for us to take away from the right. That only because of limited information are still there on the right. We're, as Democrats are sitting down there saying, let's see what we have to do to really get a win. I am saying, do you know what you have to do to get a loss? Get your butts out there in every county, every district, whether Democrat or Republican, and sell what we are selling, because what we are selling is what the people want. Everybody cares about their kids. Everybody cares about their education. Everybody cares about their jobs. But you know who don't? The right. The right only care about what they're paid to care for. Remember that. We have it on video. We have that on video where we have the representative from the Koch brothers come out and say, we go ahead and we give the semblance of a grassroots movement. A semblance of the grassroots movement. We make it look like it's the grassroots who wants it, but it's we, the elite, who want it. And Mike Psaki, if you believe the Arizona review of the 2020 election is finding mass voter fraud, you are more delusional than I could have possibly thought you were, my brother. It is just so amazing that you would even believe that. All right, let's see what Michael Rudnin won on the screen before we leave. I always like to put his stuff because he finds very good stuff. Here it is. It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends upon his not understanding it. It's amazing, right? And that's what we have to change, Michael Rudnin. That is what we must change. That is what we can change. Look, we're getting close to the end of the time today. I love all your comments. I can't read all of your comments today. Just suffice it to say that I have the smartest bunch watching me. And I hope for those in the bunch that are still yet under the spell of misinformation, that you would listen to the good people in the room. All of us are good people in the room, and try to get some info, some real information from us all. Look, folks, my name is Egberto. Oh, let me do one last pass. Please, folks, if you are on YouTube, please click the join button, become a part of the PDR posse. If you're on YouTube, Facebook or any other platform that doesn't have that join button to get to our YouTube posse, please go to politicsandright.com/YouTube, politicsandright.com/YouTube. Otherwise, please support us via Patreon, politicsandright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon, Patreon. Alternatively, you can support us by going to our on where is it again? On Amazon, politicsandright.com/books, politicsandright.com/books. Is now the time to go all in to get mislabeled politicos like Lieutenant Governor elected? Yes, it is. It is. And I have somebody I'm already supporting for Lieutenant Governor here in Texas. We can talk about that offline, Brother Pollard. And, I want us all to go in 100% for this new Lieutenant Governor candidate. Let's see. You can also visit our store, politicsandright.com/store, politicsandright.com/store. Folks, we need your support. Please support us however you can. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics and Right. And you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host. Egberto. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media corporations, only allegiance. Remember. You can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.